while you're talking. It's just because I'll be sharing it while we're going live.
There we go. Same as always. Hello, hello, hello. My name's Henry Confidential. This is where we show up to rank stuff. Austin Pascal. This is probably going to be my first chance to be the weirdo. Are you ready to have some fun?
Yeah, man. I maybe people might be getting tired of me being the wacky one or and causing the most anarchy around here. So maybe I'll be the man of sanity in this one. But who knows? My top two might surprise people. We'll see. But other than that, I might be pretty straightforward. But I'm looking forward to this. You've teased that you might have a couple of hot takes here and there. So I'm interested to see the other perspective. So. Yeah, no, definitely. What's your history with these franchises?
Um, well, that leads into hot take, so I'll actually save that
Okay.
while
All
into
right.
the
All right.
conversation because that'll spoil things. But what I will
Okay.
say is, this is one of those ones that my rankings aren't as hot. It's more of just my takes on the films.
Mm.
So like I said, we'll get into that. So, but you can go ahead. Which have you seen any of these in theaters? I guess start there.
Oh yeah, yeah. So well, I'll say this. So obviously, I did not see any of the indie movies when they came out in theaters because I was too young. Even Last Crusade, other than Crystal Skull, which I obviously did, but the original trilogy, I did not because I was only three when Last Crusade came out. But I did get a chance probably about 6 or 7 years ago. There was an AMC theater when I was in Florida that did an entire marathon on a Saturday of all the four indie films. So I got to go to see that for like $20 and saw all of them in one day. So that was pretty cool. So I have seen them all on the big screen. I've seen Raiders a couple of times because they show Raiders a lot in repertory screenings. So I don't know. That's the
Yeah,
one they show tons. I
I
don't know
remember
why
they
they
did a
don't show
lot
the
during
other ones as
COVID too.
much. But yeah, yeah, they do stuff like that all the time. I've seen Raiders in IMAX. Yeah, I've seen Raiders a couple of times. Saw Mummy 1999 opening weekend. Fell in love with it. We'll talk about it later, but I adore that movie to pieces. And I've seen both the sequels in theaters, and I skipped the Tom Cruise one. So this upcoming one was the my first viewing of that one, but I had seen pieces of it. But yeah, sitting down to watch it was my first time. So that's the only one I haven't seen in a theater technically. But no, I obviously was too young to see Indy's original run in theaters, but I have seen them all on the big screen.
Yeah, so going into this, I had watched Crystal Skull for the first time and all the Mummy movies except for the 99 one. So I actually did a lot of first time watches for this one. So it's
Oh,
definitely
cool.
going to be interesting perspectives on our opinions based on nostalgia and longevity of how long we've seen them, etc. So yeah, let's go ahead and just get into it because this is going to be an interesting one.
All right.
Um,
Well,
I'm going
do
to
you want
start
to go
off.
first?
I will
Yeah, go
start off.
ahead. All
My
right. So we
number
got
eight.
eight movies total, four versus four.
Oh yeah,
So
so
we'll see what
that's what we
happens. So
did.
yeah.
We have the four Indiana Jones movies, which are obviously all Indiana Jones, and then we have four Mummy movies, the three Brendan Fraser trilogy, as well as the Tom Cruise reboot,
And
quote
sorry,
reboot, whatever.
sorry, Jay Burns, but I'm not going down the rabbit hole of the old Universal monster movies, The Mummy's Hand and The Mummy's Ghost and Abbott. Sorry, we're not doing that. That's a whole other discussion for another thing. Maybe we'll do a personal top 10 of old Universal monster movies or something way down the line, but who knows? But I like some of those movies. But sorry, those movies are not terribly interesting to me. So no, we're keeping it more modern with this one. But yeah, sorry, just making that clarification. But yeah, go ahead with your number eight.
My number eight, ready to stir the pot?
All right.
The Mummy,
Which one?
1999.
Excellent.
Um,
Well, get ready for that one to get bumped up later by a
yeah.
lot. We'll see.
So I'll start off by saying I watched it for the first time over the summer. I can actually tell you the exact date. That's the benefit of having Letterbox. April. of last year. So
Mm.
it's actually almost been a full year since I watched it. And pretty much what I got from this movie is I'm not an adventure guy, and obviously you'll see in general of
Mm.
this list. So this being the most adventure of the trilogy in terms
Mm-hmm.
of like it's not really dealing with the character stuff as much that kind of builds up later. You know, there's some there. It's a working relationship and it's it's starting, but it's not like fleshed out. So like the majority of the movie is just the chase and the mystery and the I don't want to call them wacky relationships, but kind of just getting together and the butting heads and
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff. And it just doesn't. I just don't care. Like I gave it a second chance when I watched for this because I was like, all right, I didn't like it the first time. I was
Mm-hmm.
actually at 2 stars. I did not like it the first time, but I was like, all right, I'm gonna give it another shot just to be objective because maybe I was just tired that day or I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave it another
Yeah.
shot and I was like, all right, it went up to 3 stars. So all of these are fresh for me. Spoiler alert. It went up to 3 stars. But I just still didn't like enjoy it that much. I respected it more than I enjoyed it, which honestly is going to be the theme for this entire list. So that's why I said my hot takes are more emotions towards the films, not necessarily the rank. Obviously, this one's the hot take in terms of ranking for you, I bet. But yeah. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Brendan Fraser, I
Anybody,
like.
I'll just say anybody who knows me knows probably close to where I'm going to rank this one. I won't reveal exactly where, but knows I'm pretty high on this movie. So
Yeah.
I'll talk about it a lot more later. But yeah, yeah, yeah.
So Brendan Fraser, he works with me just as like as a explorer, not a, he's an explorer, but archaeologist, or however you want to explain. Like I can't really think of He's not geologist. I don't know what
No,
his term.
he's no Rick is just an everyman who entered. He just kind of goes
Kind of a
from thing
hustler.
to thing. Yeah, kind of a hustler. When we open the movies in the French Foreign Legion, I think he's just one of these kind of wanderers. Who just kind of goes from gig to gig. He definitely looks for adventure. He's looking for something. But he doesn't really know what he wants out of life. But he knows he's good at something. So yeah, like I think he just kind of stumbles into certain things and goes from place to place. Yeah, because he's not an archaeologist. He knows his history somewhat, but like I said, he knows his treasure. But he wouldn't call himself. All the exposition and the archaeology stuff comes from Rachel Weisz in that movie. So she's the real brains of the operation.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where it's like it's a combination of like them butting heads in terms of being who's how are they going to do this relationship? Are they going to do this love thing? Are they going to do mission first? It just was I don't know. It just didn't pull me in, and the effects are fine. Like they don't look as bad as they could or as they might in a later movie when just
Mhm.
effects specifically. But it's just one of those where it's like the score. I looked it up too because one of the other ones I won't
Jerry
spoil.
Goldsmith.
Yeah, the score in one of the other ones, I was like, man, I really like the score. I wonder if they did the first one, and I was like, oh, they didn't do the first one. So it was one of those where it's
Mm.
like the score wasn't really didn't really do nothing for me. So yeah, I don't hate this movie, but it was just out of all of these, I literally was like, all right, I either had the least amount of fun with this, or I'm least likely to rewatch it after giving it a second chance. So
Mm.
I know that's definitely on the opposite of spectrum of you, but there we go. That's my number 8.
Well, I'll just say rewatches. Well, I rewatched it again this week, and that would put my number of rewatches on this one to about 328 or something like that. Maybe I don't know. I haven't keep an accurate tally, but I've seen this movie a lot, like a lot. Like if we did, Malcolm's doing a Mummy franchise trivia thing. I'm not in it. I don't know why, because I would smoke everybody. I've seen these movies, at least the first two more than probably anybody on that panel. But yeah, I'll talk about it later. But yeah, I'm the complete opposite. I adore almost everything about this movie. I think it's a super super fun, just stupid entertaining film. Like, and I mean stupid entertaining in that like I have a smile on my face like from beginning to end. I think this movie is ridiculously entertaining, like from start to finish,
There
and
you go.
honestly, one of the best adventure movies ever made, in my opinion. But I'll talk about it more later. So
Well,
yeah,
what is your number 8? Let's see if
it ties into that because my number 8 is the third film in that franchise, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, because it completely almost betrays all of what makes the first two fun. And I primarily put that on the fact that Steven Summers is not at the helm for that one, and he's at the helm for the first two, which I think he brings a certain charm and sense of adventure to it. Rob Cohen took over the duties for this one and completely doesn't understand what makes the first two fun. The setting I don't like. I don't like the fact that they're in like snow in the Himalayas and Shanghai. It doesn't work. It's a thing where the Mummy needs to be. You need to be in and around Egypt. That's what makes the first two work. Is the setting, and the locations. Jet Li is fine as an intimidating presence when he's not a CGI, monster. When he actually has his few scenes live action, but they give him almost nothing to do. The recasting of Maria Bello into Rachel Weisz's role does not work, and it's not because of Maria Bello as an actress, because I like Maria Bello, I like her a lot, and stuff like History of Violence or The Cooler, but she's doing an impression of Evie, which doesn't work. Her just trying to be Evie is horrendous. It completely is distracting. Brendan Fraser has no chemistry with her whatsoever in this movie. The person who plays their grown-up kid is as dull as toast. And this movie, honestly, is just not exciting in any way. Like, I just get lost. I'm glad I rewatched it because I hadn't seen it since the theater. But man, I was so let down by this movie when I saw it in the theater, and I knew it was going to be different, but it completely. I think Rob Cohen just totally tanked the series, which is why we hadn't seen another one, and it's disappointing, man. It's on number 8 because it's literally my most disappointing, like out of this whole list. And the fall from the first one, at least for me, again, from the first one to this one is staggering. So yeah, my number 8 is Tomb of the Dragon Emperor.
All right. Well, I will talk about that later. So we'll see how that goes. My number 7 is going to be my first Indiana Jones movie, and this was after a first-time watch, Indiana Jones: Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And the reason that this ended up being my number 7 simply is just because it just looks ugly. Like it's that 2000 Spielberg that I don't know what he's doing with the cinematography. Like literally, that is honestly my only complaint of the movie.
He switched cinematographers, so what it is, he doesn't have the guy that did the original trilogy, which is why despite what you may think about those movies, those original 3 look great. And they look great, they shoot great. He used his cinematographer that he has been using since Schindler's List, and his name is like Janusz or something or whatever his name. Like I can't remember the guy's name, but he used that. But he doesn't know how to shoot action. He doesn't know how to shoot these locations.
Well, it's not even that. It's just, there's nonstop green screen everywhere. It looks like they're on a set. Like it doesn't feel real, like in the jungle. And it does. It's not. Yeah, it's not even just like how it's shot. It's just what it like. The background stuff, and it's just ugly. But it really bummed me out because I was actually having a blast. Like I really like Cate Blanchett hamming it up and doing some wild stuff. I really liked Indy coming back, just being grumpy old Harrison Ford. At this point, like I've noticed that I'm just a fan of old grumpy Harrison Ford, and I really like that. I like the charisma he had going for him. I really like Shia. I'm a big Shia LaBeouf fan, so that helped matters. I don't know. I know he's definitely a polarizing person in terms of acting, but like I really like him. Growing up with Holes, watching Even Stevens and stuff like that. I like Fury and other things and Lawless things that he's in. But
he's good in Nymphomaniac as well, actually.
Yeah, and I haven't seen that or Honey Boy, but I know that those are huge ones for him. But yeah, so I actually really enjoyed him in this. And at the end, when they did the tease of him putting on almost putting on the hat, you know what I mean, like taking over the mantle of Indy, like I would have been excited for it. Like if I would have watched this in 2007. Or 2008, I would have been excited. I've been like, oh shit, like that's cool, let's go. And they didn't do it. So I had a good time. It's literally just ugly to watch. So it's like I don't know if I'll go back to actually watch it very often, just because it's like daunting on the eyes with the terrible green screen, and that just bums me out because like you said, the other ones, regardless of how I feel about them magically speaking, they at least look good and they feel like a real world, and that's missing from this movie. So I actually like the story and the acting, not the acting because the acting's always good, but like the characters more in this movie than the other 3. But this is the one where I'm not going to watch it just because it just looks ugly. So it's my number 7.
Okay. I'll talk about it in a minute. I'm not far off, so I'll just say that. But yeah, but my number 7 is the Tom Cruise 2017 Mummy, which I had not seen. This was my first viewing of it. This movie to me just feels lifeless. I don't know if it feels like what it is, which is just a setup for this universe that never happened. You know, it still has that Dark Universe logo in front of it, which is weird. You know, it just feels like we're planting seeds for something that obviously just never came to fruition. I think the best part of the movie is probably Sophia Boutella. She can tell she's committed to the role. She's doing her best to try to be, you know, kind of crazy. She's doing her thing. She's committed to it. I think Tom Cruise is. I don't want to say he's like phoning it in, but he just doesn't have much to work with. His character is bland. There's nothing that makes him stand out as a character. And you know, I think Russell Crowe is having fun with his role as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but you know, again, he's given kind of shoddy material to work with in this one. There's just stuff that nothing really gets me excited in the scene. The only really decent, I think, action piece is the stuff on the plane, because they actually filmed it in a zero gravity plane and it kind of looks kind of cool for what it is.
Yeah.
But everything after that, there's nothing that stands out. You never know really define like what her powers are, what she really wants, how she's going to get it. The romance, quote unquote, between Tom Cruise and the scientist girl, I forget even her name, is completely just non-existent. I mean, he claimed they had like a one night stand, then all of a sudden at the end of the movie, we're supposed to care and think that he's in love with her. It doesn't work. Yeah, it just feels like a setup. They even have the book from the Mummy series, the Golden Book of Amun-Ra, like it makes like a cameo in this thing, and it's like the exact same prop that they dug out of like the prop room, and it's like I don't know why, but it's in there. And there's a lot of little teases here and there, the Dracula stuff, like there's little pieces dropped, but I can see why this never took off and didn't go anywhere, because this first one was just uninteresting. So it's the least exciting out of all these movies for me.
Yeah, this is my number 6. This was actually also a first time watch. I actually liked it a lot. I like Tom Cruise as an actor, so I don't know if I'm biased, but like I don't feel like he was phoning in. I feel like he was just building up a character and he was just figuring out how he wanted to go with this character, and it would have, built in the further movies. I really liked what Russell Crowe's doing. I like the relationship between him and I had to look it up. Her name is Jenny. I like that, the back and forth, and the dealing with the how are you alive stuff, and like you said, the airplane scene was pretty awesome. I mean, you see that in the trailer a million times, especially him waking up. So like even though I hadn't seen this movie immediately, and I haven't watched the trailer in almost 5 years at this point, I still remember that vividly because I was just the one thing
Yeah.
he pops up and it's like,
well, that trailer was in front of every movie in 2017. Like I saw that trailer about 18,000 times. Yeah, so
yeah. And I'm a huge Jake Johnson stan, so just seeing him have some fun in their relationship back and forth and everything that happens like towards with his like demise, or like however you want to describe it. It's just a lot of fun.
It's that whole thing is a complete rip of American Werewolf in London, though, which is and done poorly in my estimation. Like I don't know if you've seen American Werewolf in London, but it's a complete rip of that. That's why it kind of doesn't work for me. It's literally just ripping it piece for piece, but it doesn't really serve a purpose in the movie. I don't know. I don't think it serves a purpose in the movie, just personally, but.
Yeah, it didn't bother me. Like I said, I like their chemistry and their back and forth, and them the whole like you killed me, you stabbed me, you betrayed me, but also haven't. I don't know. It was fun. It could have been one of those things where I went in with such low expectations that I wasn't bored the entire time, and I was like, wow, I didn't hate this, and I wasn't offended that So I adjusted my rating system. 3 stars now is simply okay. So that's where this led. It was just okay because it's positive. It's okay. It did its job. Or did either what it was.
You call it like mildly entertaining, or average.
You know what I mean? And that's exactly how I felt about this. I mean, honestly, the bottom 3 are all in the same range in terms of where, like this one, it's probably the least memorable of my bottom 3. Crystal Skull has terrible green screen, and then The Mummy is just the least fun for me personally. So it's like it's a weird mesh of how I wanted to rank them. So I went with I have the least issues with The Mummy. I actually enjoyed Crystal Skull the most, but I'm probably not going to watch it because of that ugly green screen. And then The Mummy, I've already given a second chance. And at this point, if I'm not doing it for some sort of trivia or debate, I'm probably not going to rewatch it. And that's a bummer because I know it's a cult favorite for a lot of people. But yeah, so that's why that's my number 6. But it was your number 7. So what is your number 6?
My number 6 is Crystal Skull, so I'm not too far off. Crystal Skull, and here's the thing about Crystal Skull. I don't outright hate this movie. I know a lot of people have a vitriol and think it's like the worst sin ever committed to film or whatever. You just hear that a lot. I don't outright hate the movie, even on this rewatch. For the first hour or so, I was kind of with it, for most of it. And then, yeah, it gets into all that jungle stuff that doesn't work. Dude swinging on the vines, the sword play, the ants, the waterfalls, all that stuff. Yeah, it just looks bad. It doesn't feel like an Indiana Jones movie. It just feels like we dropped, all these characters into some other adventure. I don't know, but I don't outright hate Shia LaBeouf either. I think he's okay as Mud. He's trying. He's more one of the more enthusiastic people in the movie. I mean, he's certainly
He's got
more
that
energy,
greaser
enthusiasm
vibe,
than.
like the 50s,
Yeah, I
60s.
mean, I'm okay with that. For the most part, Karen Allen is certainly happy to be there with that shit-eating grin she's got on her the whole way through the movie. She's certainly happy to be getting her paycheck and happy to be there. I think everybody's having a good time, but I just think the execution is kind of poor. I don't know. I don't think Spielberg's heart was in it, and apparently it really wasn't, because this whole movie was Harrison Ford and George Lucas's idea, and Spielberg didn't want to do it. And you can kind of tell Spielberg's heart isn't in it, which makes a lot of sense when you watch the movie. It just doesn't feel like he's with it. I don't even necessarily hate the premise of the aliens and stuff, because if you're gonna set it in the 50s and the atomic age and the age of sci-fi B movies and alien all this, I'm fine with that. We've seen guys get their hearts ripped out and be alive. We've seen dudes get melted by an arc. We've seen people drinking, getting eternal life from a cup. I mean, we've seen all this stuff that, like, I can buy aliens. That's fine.
It's fantasy adventure. Yeah, I'm cool with
yeah,
that.
it's whatever. I'm fine with that. So I don't have a problem with that initially. I think there's a good movie buried in here somewhere. And I don't necessarily mean if they re-edited it or anything like that. I just think there's good premises here. There's some good ideas that were just executed very, very poorly in a lot of places. And the action isn't particularly exciting for most of it. And, again,
you can tell Harrison
I think the
Ford's
characters.
an old man.
Well, I mean, again, I'm fine with an older Indy, but like,
He's trying to
having
be
him
younger with his fight sequences, so it just doesn't
That's what
look
I
as
mean.
dynamic.
He should not be winning fights against like big guys, that are half his age. You know what I mean? Or getting his way out of these situations. He running around, throwing his whip all over the place, swinging all over the place. Like, it doesn't work. It was just more Indy doing his treasure hunting and figuring things out and doing all this stuff. Which, again, I like some of the stuff in the first half where he's doing that, where he's figuring out clues, he's doing ciphers. Him and Shia LaBeouf go into those graveyards and they're poking around in there and finding the path. Like, all that stuff is great. Like, that's all classic Indy stuff, and I'm cool with all that. Yeah, it's just when he's trying to do action at this point, and God help us when we get this new one that's coming out next year, and he's literally 80 years old. Like, I don't know how that's going to work. Like, I'm only interested because James Mangold's doing it. That's the only reason I'm interested. It's not Steven Spielberg doing it, which intrigues me, but I don't know how that's going to work with literally an Indy that's even 15 years older now. So I don't know. But Crystal Skull, there's something good in there, but this ain't it. This wasn't executed to the fullest potential. But I don't hate it. I don't have the vitriol that people have for this movie, because I think there's nuggets of good stuff in there.
Yeah, similar to The Mummy 2017, I went in with such low expectations because of everything I've heard about it, that by the time I watched it, I was like, yeah, it wasn't offended. Like the whole fridge scene, I didn't realize that was pretty much the beginning of the movie. I thought that was like a MacGuffin or like a Deus Ex Machina at the end of the movie. So it didn't offend me at all. It's like, oh yeah, cool. That's a plot device. And it literally went on lead. And I'm not going to Google, does lead stop atomic bombs? It stopped Superman from seeing, the bomb in the wheelchair in BVS. So sure, I'm cool with that. You know what I mean? Like, that's good enough for me, but guy. So like, I've never understood why that was such an issue for people, but I just assumed it was kind of that's how we got out of, the end of the movie, but it was at the beginning. So that doesn't bother me at all.
Right.
So yeah, it's not offensive for me personally, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
What is your number 5?
My number 5 is The Mummy Returns, the Brendan Fraser sequel.
That is also my number 5.
Oh, it is? Okay, cool. So we can talk about it right now. So excellent. So yeah, and this is one that I like this sequel. I still like it a lot. To me, it's still like a 4 out of 5 for me. And my top 4 is all 5 stars, just to let you know. So I love every movie in my top 4. But yeah, this one just slightly edges it out. The only real negative I have with the movie, and I have a lot of fun with this one, is I think Alex can be a little annoying at times. He's a little. I think they could have got a better child actor. To be honest, he's just a little too. He's a little too smart for his own good in this one, and it just kind of rubs me the wrong way sometimes. But at the same time, I still think that Brendan and Rachel's chemistry is still very good. I still think a lot of the comedic stuff works. Oded Fair is still great. I think he's great in the first movie and in this movie. And Arnold Vosloo still is great as the Mummy. And the only other real horrendous thing that people talk about from this movie, and rightfully so, is all the really bad CGI of The Rock at the end of the movie as the Scorpion King is really bad. Like I will definitely admit that. But it's still a cool concept with him being this like half scorpion thing that they got to beat, to unleash the armies or whatever. But I think the movie still has that Stephen Sommers adventure aspect to it, which I still think, again, he gets it. He still uses a lot of good locations and some fun set pieces and good action. Even the double-decker bus chase is fun.
Fire.
A lot of the stuff in the jungle is fun.
Score.
He gets a little pygmy monster. Yeah, the score, I think for both those movies, and Silvestri took over for Goldsmith, but he still got a lot of the same beats, and actually a lot of the music from this one is what they use in the theme park ride. If you ever go on the theme park ride at Universal, they use the score from this movie, not the first one. So, which I'm fine with that because I like both of them. But yeah, like all that stuff is great, and again, I think all the character beats are still good, and it still makes sense overall. Like what everybody's doing. I think the only other negative I have now that I'm thinking about is Patricia Velasquez as the real life Anaxunamu or whatever. It's the same actress from the first one who has that scene at the beginning. But she's not great, and she's better as just kind of a visual set piece and doing her Egyptian lines at the beginning of the first movie. Her acting is not the best in this one, and making her a main character was probably a mistake. But I still think the movie's really entertaining, a lot of fun. It moves fast and it breezes by for me. So I really, really like The Mummy Returns still.
Yeah. So this one, the only honestly, and it's weird that I'm saying this. The only thing that's keeping this at a 3-star, which is still 3-star, is the fact that the Rock stuff, it just doesn't hold up, and I can't be impartial and say it looks good because it's like pretty much the entire third act, pretty much. So it's not. Well,
like his opening is good. I think his opening stuff is good.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
The narration at the beginning, setting up his character is cool. Yeah. But the stuff at the end, honestly, the final stuff.
I like his character, but just the CG at the end. So it ends on a sour note because I actually really, really, really like the first 2/3, and I was like, that's what I was alluding to earlier with what I'm missing from the first Mummy, where it's just like you're building up to all that chemistry. You have the side character. I don't remember his name. What's his name?
Oh, Jonathan.
Jonathan, who's kind of getting in on the action and having a little bit of fun. Rachel Weisz and Brendan Fraser at that time are full on together, married with a kid. So their chemistry is locked and loaded. I actually really liked Alex. I liked his involvement with the bracelets, or whatever, and everything when he's trapped in the train car and he's like pulling out the toilet and all that stuff, and he's like actually being inventive, and I liked his character a lot. And it was a fun action, like you said, the double decker bus scene was a blast. The score really amplified it for me too, because I was just thinking, I was just, not only was I enjoying the action, but I'm like invested because of the music, and I feel like people underestimate how much music goes in hand with the quality of, or the rewatchability of an action scene. Like people will think of scores for movies and they'll think of action scenes, but they don't realize sometimes how they have to go together perfectly to like really encapsulate that perfect.
John Williams did a cool thing. If you ever look it up, there was an AFI tribute that they did at that Kennedy Center thing for John Williams, and he demonstrated how music adds to stuff and how critical it is. And he showed the scene, just the brief 30 seconds or so of E.T. when he's going over the moon, you know what I mean? Like in front of the moon with, so they played it without the score, and it's just kind of, it's still cool visually, but then they played the scene obviously as it is in the movie with the music and how much it elevates it and like how much it, brings out the emotions and how much it does. And like, people underestimate how score can really add to that when it's done correctly. When it's done wrong, it can be a detriment, but when it's done correctly, it can be very, very good.
Exactly. So yeah, it just I had a lot of fun with this, and I could actually see myself rewatching this one. Like if I'm like, as ironic it is, I might not go back to that first one ever again, but I could see myself rewatching this one and having a blast. 'Cause like I said, it's that origin story. I like origin stories if I really care about the character long term, but like these characters aren't really why I'm watching a movie for me personally. So I don't need the origin and the build up to them getting together. I'm just getting to the action and just has a little bit of fun. And we'll also see that later with my Indiana Jones ranking.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that one's my number 5, and I'll jump over to my number 4 because that's where it gets
Yeah, good.
interesting. My favorite of the trilogy, The Mummy 3, The Dragon Emperor. Let's
You're gonna
go,
have to explain
baby.
this one because you're in the minority on that one. I can tell you
Yeah,
that
this
straight
movie was
up.
this. All right,
Yeah,
I'll start off with my two major
yeah,
negatives. Maria Bello
hmm
sucks. She sucks. She was terrible.
yeah.
She sucks. Like her acting is terrible. But I don't care because I liked everything else. And Alex, he's wooden. Like you said, like that's toast. Whatever you said. But everything else,
hmm
I really enjoyed. I loved what's her name, Lynn.
Oh yeah,
Lynn,
yeah, the
Lynn,
younger
and then I
Asian girl.
really liked
Yeah,
Michelle Yo's character, where it's
right.
just like I really liked everything that's going on with them. I actually like the snow stuff, the stuff with the Yetis, like that was a lot of fun. Just coming in and just had that fantastical element to it. I loved just the concept of everything that was going on with the Emperor, and I actually didn't mind him in his CG state because he's just doing some wild stuff with flames in his face and all that stuff. I thought it looked good. It's probably the best CG of the three for me. That it just at that point it just I was cool with it. It didn't bother me at all. I love the different set pieces. I love the dynamic back and forth of Alex trying to take over, not necessarily the company business, but like the concept of being
Mm.
a mummy raider or whatever, and doing his job, and how we got linked in with Lynn. I like the backstabbing of old boy at the beginning, and it's felt like it. At that point, I'm invested in like these characters as written entities. So it's one of those where it's like by time things are happening, and it just worked for me. I had a lot of fun with this. Like I said, the only issues that I literally had were Maria Bello. I thought she was bad, not just like not good. I thought
Mm.
she was terrible. And then Alex was just like whatever. He was just wooden, like you said. But
Mm.
in a 2-hour movie, it went by. I had a lot of fun with it. The third act felt like Army of Darkness, just a bunch of lifeless skeletons fighting each other, and it was just a fun time. And I loved when Brendan Fraser was like, "Hey, let's fight like a man," and then Jelly starts kicking his ass, and it's one of those where it's like, all right, because it did the cliche of things where it's like, put your gun down, blah blah blah, and then they win. I mean, obviously he
Mm.
wins, but it's one of those where he was kicking his ass for like a long time, and there's a lot of emotion. The relationship between Rick and Alex, the trio of just the family, and then Alex and Lynn, the whole immortality stuff. Like I dug it, and once again, it could have been the expectations were so low, but I liked it, and that's why I love like who I am as a movie fan. I don't let scores and stuff pressure me into feeling something about a movie. I'm just gonna go generally with my opinion, and this on first watch for Returns and Dragon Empire were my this one's my favorite, and maybe Returns will jump it, but I know for a fact that The Mummy '99 is going to be my third, and that's not going to change.
Mm.
So, boom, take that.
All right, fair enough, but I don't get it. But fair enough, fair enough.
Told you.
Well, here's the thing. Again, if you had the love for the series like I do, I think you would think differently of that third one. Like if you had been as invested as I was, like from the get go, I think it would be different. But you're coming in
I
like
don't
kind
see
of fresh
anything
on the
different.
series.
I don't see anything different. Like
I do. The movie just feels different. It feels different. It doesn't gel with the other two, especially when you watch them in a row. Like there's
I
something
did,
that
and
doesn't
that's why this
click.
was the best.
It doesn't click. Like again, I have the love for the first two that is just on a higher level. So it's just to me it's like a huge dive off a cliff for me, like in quality. But that's
Hey,
just me
it's okay.
personally.
You let the
Yeah.
internet tell you how to feel about a movie. I understand. That's how it goes.
It's not the internet. I love the movie. I'm completely different from you. So yeah, I mean, it's just
No, I'm talking
we don't
about by
agree.
hating this one. You let the internet
By
tell
hating
you.
that one, I hate it because I don't like it because it just
Ah,
doesn't work for me. I rewatched it. I don't like it. I didn't like it. No wait, that was like pre message boards. I didn't like it. That was when we just had reviews in the newspaper pretty much. But yeah. Anyways, my number 4 is Temple of Doom. Um, but again, I have love for all these 4 movies. So I don't know if the rankings would necessarily change over time. But goddamn, does this movie just kick for me? And it's just kinetic. Like again, Willie Scott is still a problem. She's the weakest of the girls. I fully acknowledge that. But at least brings a different dynamic to it, where she is literally a damsel in distress more so than the other two. But like I will flat out say I think the last 45 minutes or 50 minutes of this movie is some of the best pure indie action of the series. I think it just goes super hardcore. Like it flies. It's well shot. It's well directed. It's a literal roller coaster ride. I mean, we literally get almost a roller coaster at the end of the movie with the minecart stuff. It hits all my horror sweet spots with all the stuff with the human sacrifice ceremonies and everything. And Molaram is just a cool villain, just in general. The locations are nice. It's a nice change of pace with the stuff in India and the story about these stones and him saving the kids. I think it has one of the most posterific badass indie moments when he goes down. He says, we're gonna get out, all of us, and then they roll up the mine cart and they put the light on him, and he's standing there ready to beat the shit out of somebody. Just looking badass. He's awesome. And I like Short Round. I'll defend Short Round all day. He's a man of action. He does his thing, and he's got Indy's back, man. And he for real, like he's ready to fight grown men, like he doesn't care. And he's a cool dude, and his stuff works. And
Dr. Jones.
Yeah, I just think this movie's super entertaining, even just from top to bottom. Despite my minor little nitpicks, I can easily overlook that if I'm having a great time. And this one, I just have a blast. And it also has one of my other favorite little moments of indie acting when they're stuck in the room that's collapsing, and he just looks at the hole and just goes, "We are going to die." One of those few moments he's had where he doesn't have confidence in her and he actually thinks he might die. It's a lot of fun. So I still really love Temple of Doom. Even it being my number 4, I love this movie to pieces. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is one I'll talk about later.
Okay, cool.
I will go to my number 3. My number 3 is the first of the initial trilogy, and that is The Last Crusade.
Okay.
The reason that this one's third is because I honestly don't feel anything with Senior and Junior. I just don't. I mean, other than the fact that at the end, like, there's an actual like template of like insert emotional feelings here of like you can just kind of picture yourself there. But in terms of specifically Sean Connery and Harrison Ford, I don't know if it's the accent where he's doing his accent, and I just don't feel like it just doesn't feel legit like their father and son. So the fact, I mean, we don't get Connery until 45 minutes into the movie or something along those lines. So like we're really not even the opening scene was really cool. That I don't know if it's my favorite of the openings, but it was really cool.
It's fun. The River Phoenix stuff, is really good.
And then and then once you lead into that everything with Indy, and like I said, it just gets a while to go, and it's like I don't know, I just like, as you'll see, I'm not a huge fan of just this character. Like I don't hate him. He's just not I didn't grow up with him, so I don't have any nostalgia for him. I'm not an adventure guy. You know what I mean? So it's like the fact that this one harps on all the emotion and I'm not feeling not all the emotion, but a lot of the emotion. I'm not feeling it. You know what I mean? I was really surprised. Like I was going into this one, like, all right, this one is going to change my mind on like this character, and it just didn't. I still thought it was a good movie. Like this is the first of the 4-star movies. Like my top 3 are 4-star movies, no 5 stars. But it just missed for me in terms of like that connection. So like it's well made, it looks good, the score's good, like all the stuff, like I said, technically that I'm missing in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, you have here. Like it's watchable. I'll watch it again, and I'll do it reluctantly because I know it's not going to change because I just don't have that attachment and that connection with these movies. But I don't know. I just did not dig Sean Connery in this movie outside of the fact of like, I like Sean Connery, but like not as Senior. You know what I mean? It just didn't really do it for me. There was like 1 or 2 moments where you're like, okay, they did something there, but it didn't do it as a whole. And it just, I don't know. It was excuse me, it was missing for me. So it's my number.
Well, that just may be the general dynamic of this episode in general, because I had this trilogy on VHS when I was a kid. My parents got it for me, so I watched the shit out of these movies, all the time. Wore them out, and they're ones I've owned on every piece of physical media that I did grow up with. So it definitely, if you don't have that factor in your life, I could see where that would, you coming into it fairly recently, I guess, is that fair to say? Like fairly recently, or at least like, within the last 10 years or so, where you would maybe not click with it as much. But yeah, I no, I dig Last Crusade a lot, as we'll talk about in a few minutes. But yeah, I do have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, that's what I've learned.
That's
So
interesting.
I'm pretty sure I watched Raiders for the first time in like 2017, roughly, maybe
Mm,
around there. And I've seen Raiders probably
mm,
about 4 or 5 times at this point.
yeah.
Spoiler, don't love it. But I watched Kingdom. I watched not Kingdom of the Crystal, Temple of Doom and Last Crusade for the first time over the summer, and that was because I
Mm,
was like, I bought them on my Vudu. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna sit down and watch them. I spent the whole day, I literally watched them back to back to back.
right.
I'm like, all right, let me see if I get that magic, and I just don't have it. You know what I mean?
Mm,
I feel like I'm the only one. Obviously, like Chris Stuckman's known for him being a huge Indiana Jones shill. A bunch of people in this community like they hype it up when it got so many votes on Malcolm's most recent, voting of different franchises, and I just don't. I don't. It's hard to say I don't care because I love Harrison Ford. I love Star Wars. I love Han Solo. I love
mm,
Rick Deckard and Blade Runner. You know what I mean? I like him later when he's older as grumpy Indy. It just doesn't really do it. And also, that's another thing that
mm,
I just don't care about him as um Henry Jones. You know what I mean? I like him as Indy. I don't like him as like non-Indy. And it's just so that's another thing where it's like I don't love all of him. Imagine, you
mm,
know, loving Spider-Man or Batman, but not Bruce Wayne and Peter Parker. And that's kind of what it is for me. I need to love the whole character to love like to have that magic, and I just
mm,
don't. I actually think he's like not bad, but like because he's playing, he's doing the Clark Kent thing. That's another reason why I don't like Clark Kent, where it's like Indiana Jones is Indiana Jones when he's Indiana Jones, not when he's the professor. So
mm.
like other that he's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
stale and boring, and that's like Clark Kent, and that's why I don't vibe to Superman because I don't really give a shit when he's not Superman, even though I don't like Superman that much anyway. But like that's just my parallel of that. So
Mm.
yeah, um, Last Crusade is my number 3 still because it's a really good, a well-made movie and technically good. I just don't connect to it. What's your
Okay.
number 3?
Well, I'll be the fanboy on this episode, but I'm a fanboy because I've seen this movie since I was like 6 years old. You know what I mean? I'm a legitimate fanboy. It's not because of pressure from anybody. Like I legitimately love these movies. Like I could sit down and watch them anytime. I did watch them again, for this week again for another time. So, but my number 3 is Raiders. So like I said, I've seen Raiders. This is the one I've seen on the most on the big screen, and not to say it's number 3 because I'm burning out on a little bit. I still find it exciting, but I just have a little more fun with some of the stuff in Last Crusade, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a minute. But yeah, Raiders is still fantastic from start to finish. The opening is iconic, with him, doing his treasure hunting and the giant ball and everything. It's great. Little Alfred Molina, little Doc Ock early on in his career, which is fun. Yeah, I like the dynamic between him and Belloc. Belloc is the guy who's in it for, strictly for black market money, and he's in it for
Yeah.
for the museum and the science and all that kind of stuff. He still likes to get paid on the side, but he's not a greedy guy. But yeah, Salah's great in this one. John Rhys Davies is a lot of fun. And yeah, this one just has probably the most adventure aspect as far as like the treasure hunting and stuff, because there's a lot of digging, a lot of puzzle solving, a lot of stuff in the
A lot
Mac
of
room, things
snakes.
like that. Yeah, a lot of snakes. Yeah, you don't like snakes, and yeah, a lot of that. But that scene's great. The face off with the Cobra is a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, and even like I said, the little horror aspects they get into at the end, the face melting stuff and the heads getting squeezed is really great and kind of shocking for a 81 PG movie, but yeah, it's still good stuff. And the stunt work again, this one is just top notch. I have a book by this guy Vic Armstrong, who was the stunt man for Harrison Ford, and his work in this whole series is incredible. Like you have to admit, all the stuff with the truck, chase and everything is top notch practical stuff. It's awesome, and I love his fight with the big dude on the plane. All that stuff is great, and all the character dynamics work. Marion is probably easily, at least in this movie, the best of the ladies because she's got a little fire in her.
Her
She's
introduction
fight back.
was really
Yeah,
cool.
her introduction is good. Where it's a nice setup for later in the movie when she's faking it with Belloc, drinking and faking like she's drunk when she can hold her liquor and yeah, it's a nice little dynamic there. So yeah, the movie still rolls and kicks for me. I just have a little more fun with one of the other movies in the series, just personally. So yeah, I could watch Raiders any day of the week and be perfectly fine with it. Yeah. Raiders is
There
great.
you go. Raiders, my number 2, and
Mm,
what I had to pretty much go on with this of why I chose this over Last Crusade is just the fact that I technically have seen this one more, and I I'm on record saying that this is one of the most overrated movies of all time, which is ironic that it's my number 2 on this list, but that also shows of how I just don't really have an affinity for
Yeah.
anything really on this list. So it's one of those ones where it's like the opening scene is good, but the more that I've watched it, the more that, it just doesn't have that snap to it. Like it just I don't know, it's just one of those where it just felt like I'm spoiled now with modern movies where just the even the practical stuff, it's not just CG, but even the practical stuff where it felt even more dangerous. This one doesn't feel as dangerous because of, even like when he goes under the thing to grab the whip or his hat or whichever one he grabbed, but it was behind him and the thing's going down. That door's been going down for 47 minutes at that point. You know what I mean? Like I know he's gonna make it, and it just doesn't feel like the urgency. And then, when he jumps after Alfred Molina, snakes him. Give me the
Throw me the
gato.
idol. I throw you the whip. Yeah.
The gato. No, that's the right one.
It's okay. If you need a quote from these movies, just ask me. I'll give you the exact quote. It's not a problem. Just to let you know.
But yeah, so it's I don't know. I don't know. It's good, and I love the practicality of it. And then like when he's running from all the people. The
Nazis.
People in the woods. I don't know what to call them.
It'll be
problematic.
Jovitos.
Whatever I say, yeah.
The Jovitos.
Yeah.
You could warn them, Henry, if only you spoke Jovitos.
Yeah, those nice people. But yeah, when they're shooting him with arrows, he's just running away, and I felt like they could have got him. But yeah, I'm just nitpicking at this point because I just it's been shoved in my face as like one of the best movies of all time, and I've just never had that magic. And maybe I'm a hater. I just, obviously I think it's a 4-star movie. Like I've many times I'm like, I want to put this as a 3-star movie, but like, I just respect it too much, even though I don't want to. Like, I will admit that I'm like, I want to, how people are like dissing like Dark Knight sucks because it's blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I feel that's how I am about Raiders. And I will admit that it's at this point, it's like,
do you feel like it's a thing where what this movie is or these movies in general are kind of taking out? They're taking off the old serials of like the 30s and 40s, right? Like the old, things they used to play in front of movies, little 20-minute adventures that would always end on a cliffhanger, things like that. Is it because it's more structured as like old-fashioned entertainment, like a serial? Is it just you're not into that, or
maybe.
are you into more like modern, like kinetic, like faster paced, going from location to location type of stuff?
I honestly just don't know. Like I said, so in this one,
I'm just asking questions, trying to probe into like your
asked
thing.
this
So
for years, like in every review I've ever done to this, I'm just like, hey, I'm not even trying to like hate. It's just like I just don't have any connection with it. When he starts off, so like after the opening, and then he jumps over to being the professor, and then he's doing his stuff in the classroom, like. It's just Harrison Ford, essentially talking like Blade Runner, that voiceover, and then I was.
No, that's Crystal Skull, him doing the Blade Runner.
Oh, I like Grizzly. I like Grizzly old Harrison Ford. I like Harrison Ford. Ironically, no, I like him in Temple of Doom as more, obviously. But Temple of Doom, Crystal Skull, this, and then Last Crusade in terms of how much I like Harrison. So that's weird. Like I know that.
Okay.
My opinions on Indiana Jones.
Well, but here's my hot take. I don't like Blade Runner. I'm not a Blade Runner fan, so maybe that's where we're different, because I don't like Blade Runner at all. Like, I'm not a fan of Blade Runner. So if we ever talk about that for some reason, yeah, I'll talk about Blade Runner, but I don't like Blade Runner, so that's my hot take for the evening.
Yeah, but yeah. Raiders, I've given it, a few chances, and it's like literally my very first review of this is like I just didn't connect with this like others. The opening is fun and the ending is cool. The rest meanders too much. It's not bad. I just don't get giddy when I watch it. You know what I mean? It's like I'm not even trying to be a hater. I just have zero magic, and that bums me out because I hear people talk about this movie, like Brian Michaels, who's on the channel all the time. It's in his top 2. Like I think it's Die Hard and Raiders. Like those are his 2 favorite movies of all time. You know what I mean? And it's just like when I hear him talk about it, like, it's just like I just don't have any of that, dude. And I'm not even trying to be a hater, but yeah, that's just unfortunately my opinion. But what's your number 2?
My number 2 is Last Crusade.
Oh boy, I knew it.
It's my top of the indie, and so that'll be my hot one of the day. But we'll talk about that in a minute. But Last Crusade, and this is one of the ones where I thought Raiders was my favorite probably growing up, but as I got older, I appreciated more of the stuff you were talking about. I appreciate the Harrison Ford Sean Connery dynamic. I think it's a really interesting father-son relationship in that you get what the dynamic or the relationship is a few scenes in, you know exactly what it is. You even just get it barely, you know, in the River Phoenix stuff, you just get a little taste of it. But even, you know, in the initial stuff, Connery's more interested in whatever he's working on, whatever he's doing. He's not interested in whatever Indy's doing. You get there's that great dialogue between them on the when they're on the Zeppelin, when he's just like, Indy's complaining about, oh, you know, we never actually sat down and like talked, like we never just had any, you know, back and forth, you know. And he goes, all right, well, I got some time right now. What do you want to talk about? And he's just kind of like, well, I mean, I can't think of anything right now. And Connery just goes, well, then what are you complaining about? Let's get back to business. And it's like, you know, everything you need to know about that frustration. I've seen, you know, relationships that are like that, and it really works for me. You know, when they're on the motorcycle and he's doing all of his action stuff, he's foiling everybody that's coming up next to him, and Connery's just got this disinterested look on his face. He's checking his watch, you know, he's unimpressed.
I
you know, all that
do.
stuff is a lot of fun.
That was funny. Yeah.
That stuff is fun and interesting. I mean, come on, this movie has Indy literally going face to face with Hitler. That's pretty great. Like, that scene is great, and that face off, you know, doom 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 doom. You know, when they finally have a face off, has a nice punchline with him autographing the diary. I think that's nice. I think a lot of the gags even work in this one, and I just like the story. I like the hunt for this Grail, and you know, all the stuff with the 800-year-old, you know, Templar Knight at the end is interesting. And come on, you chose wisely, you chose poorly is iconic at this point. You have to at least admit that. That's a great gif and meme, you know, that people share throughout the internet, but for good reason. I think that guy's great. He's a lot of fun. I like that they bring Sallah back. Marcus Brody even gets in on the action. He's fun. Yeah, I just think this movie clicks, and I think I just like most of the character dynamics out of this one, out of the three, the most, and has the most stuff where I'm interested in just about everything they're doing from scene to scene. So this one just is the most kinetic and the most energized for me personally. So that's why I like Last Crusade.
There you go. And just hearing you talk about it, it bums me out that I just shared zero of that magic. But yeah, it is what it is. But that's why my number one doesn't need magic. It just needs to be fucking nuts.
Yeah, it is fucking nuts. I'll say that. It's fucking nuts. And you heard me talk, like, it hits those, it goes by, and it's one of the, you know, this, and you've heard the stories about how this and like Gremlins and stuff were the inspiration for the PG-13 rating, and you can hear why. This movie gets crazy. No, I like it. Go ahead. But yeah, I love Temple Dude.
Like, this is one where I literally am like, yo, since I have zero magic, I better have some fun. It flies by. The pacing is great. It just nonstop action, like all the stuff that I was missing in terms of like the real life, you know, not horror, but like the tension of, like I said, those scenes that didn't hold up quite as much for me personally. And Raiders, I'm feeling them in this because it's like, it felt, you know, brutal, and it's just a lot of fun. Like you said, ripping hearts out. You know, Indy's got, you know, taking his sleeve off and looking like a badass. And
he's looking really like a bad dude. He looks like a bad motherfucker when he shows up in that, like, at the bottom, like at the pit, and he's ready to fight people. Man, he's fighting the big giant dude who's the same guy from the Raiders, by the way, just in different makeup and stuff. But yeah, their fight on the Rock Crusher machine is fun. Yeah, even the back and forth between him fighting the dude and Short Round fighting the Maharaja dude, you know, at the same time. The back and forth is a lot of fun. Yeah, that stuff's brutal. You would see two kids fighting essentially too. That's brutal.
And like you said, I like Short Round. I like that dynamic of like, yo, A, I got your back, and B, I'm just a kid in the adventure, and I'm just kind of doing what I got to do, because it's just, you know, kind of like, you know, what all I got, you know what I mean? And I dig that. And even like the quote unquote slower parts when they're at that, like the club or whatever, what is it, Club Obi-Wan or something, like, isn't it?
Club Obi-Wan. Yeah, it's a throwback to Star Wars.
Yeah. So one of those, like, it just looks so cool and, you know, so flashy, and like there's you know at the like in the distance there's something going on. It's not just a regular scene. So it just kept the pace going, and I had a blast with this. So like I'm almost guaranteed that this will never be a 5-star, but if any of them were ever to bump up to a 5-star, this is going to be close, just because of just how wild and nuts it is. And I just have a blast. I had a blast with it. And
you know, no, I'll say this most recent rewatch, it might bump into my top 100 now. It's not at right now, but it's close. It's close. It's borderline, because Raiders and Last Crusade's in my top 30, but Raiders is like number 70 or 80 or something like that. But yeah, like, no, it's fun. I think John Williams, the stuff he does in this movie, the different themes he has throughout this, is some of his best work of the 80s. Like, if you actually listen to it, it's really, really good. Like all the the stuff in India and everything, and all the little other themes he comes up with is a lot of fun. And yeah, the movie moves, and yeah, Willie is. I can overlook that if I'm having a great time, and yeah, I have a great time with Temple of Doom. It rocks.
And no, that stuff doesn't bother me. Yeah, they're
Yeah, yeah.
cool. So, all right. Well, now we are going on to the the meat. This is the one that you were gonna riff about. Tell us why
Yeah,
the Mummy is your favorite amongst
the
these.
my the Mummy, it just is, man. Like I saw this movie opening weekend. I had tons of fun with it. I never knew at the time that it would become one of my. This movie, I shit you not, Henry, is in my top 10 of all time. It's my number 6. That's how good it is for me. I love this movie from start to finish, from the opening narration and the stuff in Egypt, the really cool voiceover, the way they do the exposition, I think is really, really fun. I'm interested in the story that they're doing, which a lot of times I'm not, hence like the Tom Cruise one or something like that. I think a lot of that is due to Oded Fair, has a ton of charisma as Ardeth, the Magi guy. He's great. I think Rick O'Connell's just a really cool action hero in that he's a badass when he needs to be, but he also gets his ass kicked here and there. He's not perfect.
Yeah.
He gets beaten around a lot, and but he's cool when he has to be. And Rachel Weisz, I just love that she's the brains of the operation. She's not a fighter or anything, but she knows stuff that everybody else doesn't know. And at the time, actually in '99, that was fairly progressive for what it was. She's a smart, capable, heroine in a different way. She's not shooting guns, she's not punching people out, but she knows things and she knows how to get shit done. And that's a cool dynamic for me. I love their chemistry. Jonathan actually brings good comic relief. I like all of Jonathan's stuff. Even the other people bring comic relief. I like Benny. He's a great weasel. He's a fantastic weasel. Like, he's just so back and forth, even to the fact that he's so weaselly, but in such a fun way that even Brendan Fraser is trying to save him at the end. Despite how much he stabbed him in the back, he's still trying to get him out. I think that's great. Even the minor side characters, the warden of the jail is a lot of fun. I like his dynamic. He's a stand-up comic in real life. He's great. Winston, the Air Force pilot, has a great little mini character arc of him just wanting to die doing something heroic, or die with his boys. He regrets that he didn't.
That's the same one in the third. Is he the same guy in the third one?
No, because he dies in this one. He goes down with the plane and sinks in the quicksand. But yeah, I like the dynamic of the Mummy. It's because it's adventurous. It still has a couple of horror elements, but it doesn't take itself too seriously. It never gets too serious to where you're just not having fun and smiling. All the location, there's a lot of practical stuff in the desert and a lot of practical sets like all over the place. I think all the labyrinthian stuff that they're running around, in Hamunaptra and all that is a lot of fun. The gunplay is great. The fights are great. The score is great. I have a smile on my face from start to finish. And like I said, I've rewatched this movie hundreds of times, and every single time, even my most recent watching on my 4K this time, this movie just kicks, man. I could quote this movie from start to finish. I love every single character. Every moment of this movie rocks. So it's my number one because I don't have a single down point to say about this movie. I love every single thing about it. That's just what it is. And I never thought I would say that, but ranking it, I have to be honest with myself, and this is it, man. This is the pinnacle of adventure stuff for me. I just dig it.
Yeah, and that's one of those where like it bummed me out. So a little behind the scenes stuff. Mike Hanley, he used to be a really close friend of mine, and so like I known for a long time that this was like one of his jams. So it's like I went in with that pressure too of like I need to love this because of him. Blah blah blah. So like when I went in, I don't know. Once again, I don't know if it's high expectations, where I am in like my style of what I like and how it just didn't meet any of. I honestly have no idea. You know what I mean? And it just didn't do it for me, and it just bums me out that I just don't share that magic at all with this one in terms of like I just didn't really enjoy it, as well as in this entire episode of like I just don't have the affinity for these adventure types of movies, and it's not my jam. Which is ironic because I just watched Adventures in Babysitting last week, and that was a blast. I actually had more fun in that adventure than.
I can't agree with you totally on that one, but I haven't watched it in a while. But maybe I'll get around to it at some point.
Oh my god, that's funny. So yeah, it is what it is. You know, what I mean, it's a bummer, but that's why I love anything in terms of film. I don't want to say criticism, but just like film, the
Well,
community.
no, it just goes to show how different people can connect with different movies. I just click with this movie, man. Just everything about it just clicks with me, and it just hits all my sweet spots against that I like, and it has this magic about it. I can't even really explain it. It has a charm to it and a certain magic where I just think everybody is having a blast making it, and it's fun filmmaking, and everybody's glad to be there and doing everything they can to make this film. Even I haven't even mentioned the cowboys. The three American cowboys are great. Man, that gag when they turn and the boat's going down to shit, and they turn to them and they're having a blast just shooting all the Magi guys. And they, just shooting, and they're just having fun. Like I love that. Puts a smile on my face, man. I just dig it, and yeah, it just works for me, man. And that's the thing though about movies is like it can work for somebody on every level, and then it's for somebody else it just doesn't work. And that's the thing about movies, and how different they can affect different people. But yeah, I dig this movie so hard. Like I love this one. So I'll be talking about it more on me and Jacob Barber because we're gonna be ranking each other's top 10. So I'll get a chance to talk about it again on our next episode.
Okay.
So I'll talk about it more over
So
there.
he's gonna tell you his top 10, and you're gonna rank it in your
So
opinion?
he told me he sent me his top 10. And I'm gonna rank his top 10, like where I would rank those 10 movies, and he's gonna rank my top 10 where he would rank those movies. So
That's actually a lot of fun.
So that's fun. So
I might steal that idea for just a round table.
I know, yeah,
hey guys,
yeah, right.
That's really cool.
It's a fun idea. Yeah, he came up with. I have to give him all credit. He came up with that, and it's fun. We had one crossover that I had to sub in my number 11. We both had Mary Poppins in our top 10, so I had to sub that out, and I let him have that, and I subbed in Invasion of the Body Snatchers. But yeah, so we're gonna do that. That's gonna be a lot of fun. So I'll talk more about the Mummy on that episode because that's in my, like I said, it's in my top 10. I love this movie so much.
And you'll plug that further, but let's go. Indiana Jones versus The Mummy.
The Mummy.
Enter Confidential and Austin Tess Howell. Number 8, The Mummy 2017.
Fair.
Number 7, Indiana Jones, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. At number 6, this one hurts my heart, The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, number 6.
Doesn't hurt me.
Number 5, The Mummy Returns. This one is going to hurt you. Number 4, The Mummy.
Well, no, here's the thing. It doesn't hurt me as a group ranking because I understand, like, overall, Indy has more clout than The Mummy, so I'm okay with that. But I definitely didn't want Mummy to be, like, number 8 or some shit. You know what I mean? I was like, not that that's why I ranked it number 1. It's legit my number 1, but I knew that was something like that might happen. So
our top 3 is interesting because I have Temple of Doom at 1. You have it at 4. I have Raiders at 2. That's your 3, and you have Crusade at 2, and that's my 3 . So I had
it's like complete reversed, right?
Yeah. So even though 1 is the highest of them all, I still am going to be fair and bring down the 4, and Temple of Doom brings that or that brings that down to 3. And at this point, I'm just going with popular demand. So Indiana Jones: Last Crusade is at 2, and Raiders of the Lost Ark is at 1. That's essentially the tiebreaker. Yeah. So yeah, that is where we lie on this episode. And it's one of those ones where this one was one for you. Like, you know what I mean? I did this one for you because I know at some point you're going to be doing one for me, and I'm like, that's fair. Because like, even though
maybe in the near future, like next week, I'll be doing one for you that I'm not going to be as enthusiastic about. So yeah, the next week is for you. So I'm doing we'll trade off here. You gave one to me. Let me gush about The Mummy. Now we'll tell them in a second. But yeah, the next week is definitely for you. that's for damn sure. Because I'm not going to be as enthusiastic.
And the reason that we did this one too is that the new movie, The Lost City, coming out. It's just that adventure style movie. It just made the most sense of doing this. And sure, people say, oh, we could have done other iterations of The Mummy, or we could have done National Treasure. Don't worry, we got things in the works. This is a fun 4 and 4, and that's why we did it this way. All right, so go ahead and tell us, what are we going to be doing?
So it's not only one for you, but it's one that will tie into kind of current things. The Oscars are obviously coming up this week, and Licorice Pizza is up for Best Picture, and obviously that's Paul Thomas Anderson's latest foray. We've been talking about it. I know Henry's a big fan of PTA. So we're going to be doing, we're switching back to filmography. It's kind of, we like to bounce back and forth. So we'll be doing PTA, Paul Thomas Anderson, and we'll be diving into his rankings. I'm a casual fan. I know Henry's more of a big fan. One of your probably, would you say he's one of your favorite filmmakers going today?
He's probably my top 5 of all time.
Top 5, right? Yeah. With Tarantino and some of those guys, I got you.
Nolan, and then
Kubrick, okay,
Hitchcock, Billy Wilder, and then he's probably
we'll get to Kubrick at some point. We'll get to some Billy Wilder because I do like Billy Wilder. But yeah, we'll do PTA to kind of tie into current events because that does tie in. It was either that or Adam McKay. We'll get to Adam McKay at some point because he's also nominated. But yeah. We'll do that and dive into some PTA next week, which I'm glad I have a vacation week next week because there's some long movies in there, so I'm going to need some time to watch these movies.
You're going to enjoy a lot of these on 4K, so you're welcome.
Well, no, I did actually a few weeks back. I knew we were going to do it eventually, so I bought some Blu-rays. I bought a Blu-ray of The Master. I bought a Blu-ray of Inherent Vice. I already had the Blu-ray of There Will Be Blood and Boogie Nights and some of those, but I've never seen Hard 8. That's my one. And Phantom Thread. Those are my 2 wild cards that I don't know where I would rank them because I haven't seen them. So I'll be interested to watch those. And I haven't gone back to Inherent Vice and The Master in a long time either. So I'll be going back to those and see where they go.
I feel like prediction-wise, I feel like The Master would be the most interesting discussion. So that's the one that I'm most curious about.
Yeah, I remember casually liking that one. So it might be in the upper half at least. So we'll see. But yeah.
All right. So what else do you have on the docket for your other shows? Are you done?
Yeah. So over on the Movie Hero Network, we've been cranking out a lot of episodes this week. We've done a couple of tournament fights on our part 2s of our One Crazy Day and Night Movies tournament. We just did our rom-coms last night, part 2 of that, because we had 128 of those because there's so damn many. So part 2 of that. And then this Friday we're doing another tournament fights battles where 5 of us are going to submit 12 of our worst experiences in a movie theater, just movies that made us want to pull our hair out. Like not necessarily what we think are like general, we already did like a worst movies, Rotten Tomatoes type of thing, Razzies type of thing, just voting on that. But these are like our personal, like, I hated my experience with this movie in the theater, that sort of thing. So we're each going to submit 12 or 13 and throw them into the brackets and vote for the worst. So that should be interesting. But it'll make it interesting because everybody's taste is all over the place. So it could be a big mix of movies. So that'll be a lot of fun. And like I said, me and Jacob Barber, a podcast about movies on the same thing. What I just talked about, we're going to be ranking each other's top 10, which is going to be fun. So, I'm going to be ranking his 10 that he sent me, and he's going to rank the 10 I sent him. So that'll be interesting. We'll talk about those 20 movies. That'll be a lot of fun. So we'll talk about The Mummy again because The Mummy is in my top 10. So I'll get to gush about it again on that show. Anytime I can talk about The Mummy, I'm going to talk about The Mummy.
I feel like that would be a fun drinking episode. So I think that's how I'll steal it too. I'll turn it into a ranting of like, yeah, dude, your number 1 sucks. That's the worst of the one. Fuck you, man.
We should do that with each other's top 10 on this show. Like I'll send you mine because you may like hate some of the ones on mine, and maybe like some of the ones on yours I'll be like, well, are you fucking like, because I can't remember. I know we did your 100. I was on there. I can't remember exactly what your 10 was.
Because I'm gonna do a yearly update, so I might have 1 or 2 new ones in there, or it might be the same, but yeah, it's still an interesting order. So I love that concept. So I'd actually be down for that too if we ever wanted to do expanded filmographies like Scorsese or whatever, and do our personal top 10s and now we rank the others. So that's how we narrow it. I don't know. We could figure out a way to actually make that. I don't know. We'll toy with that. But,
well, I mean, we could do a let's rank stuff. Let's rank each other's top 10s, and we could do that. What's the top 10 of your thing? Whatever. And you can rant about number 10 is a 1-star piece of shit, and I think your number 10 is a 5-star. Whatever. Like we can have fun with it. So exactly. I'm always down, man. I'm always down. So we have fun. We have fun despite our differences. No, I get it. I get it. You didn't grow up with these movies, which I get is a reason for, a lot of it is nostalgia. I'll always admit that. And a lot of with people in the community, we all did grow up with these movies. It's like some people don't like Star Wars because they didn't grow up with it, and that's fine. Well, they just don't get it.
Star Wars are the prequels just because
that's what I mean. I was talking to somebody at my job the other day, just it's a quick side note, but she's 20 years old, one of our stock clerks, and she grew up watching the prequels, watching Phantom Menace and Attack of them. Like those are her favorites. And she's not as into Empire, Return of the Jedi and things like that. So it's all a matter of perspective and what clicks with you, especially when you're young. That could definitely influence you later in life and stick with you. So yeah.
There you go.
Definitely.
All right, so so check out everything he's doing over the Movie Hero Network, and then check out everything over here. I have another podcast I started up with John DeMayer. Episode 1, we talked about The Lost Boys, Girl Who Walks Alone at Night.
I listened to it, sir. I really enjoyed it. I haven't gotten to the second one yet, but I listened to the first one. I really enjoyed it. That was a lot of fun, and it only made me want to. We need to do Texas Chainsaw now. I know you've already given your thoughts on it. We got to do it soon because. If we can, I'm going to send you the damn DVD of the second one so we can finally do it because that's the one that's weirdly unavailable.
There you go.
The Tobe Hooper one, but I'll do what I can.
There you go. And then episode 2 was a lot of fun. We talked about The Thing, Splinter, and then the most new release of X, which if you haven't seen that movie, I highly recommend.
I'm going to go see that probably tomorrow. So I'll be messaging you and let you know what I think.
You'll be happy. Yes, you will.
Nice. I'm going to go see it tomorrow.
I'm putting my stakes in there. Like, hey, I'm all in that you're going to really like it at the bare minimum.
If it's as much of a throwback to like 70s grindhouse horror, like Texas Chainsaw, like original stuff, and like 70s trash kind of movies, but done in a good way. Like I like Ty West a lot, so I'm very much looking forward to it. If you've seen
the trailer and you're all in on the trailer, the trailer isn't. It's not a gimmick. The trailer is the movie, and I actually love that. I mean, obviously there's stuff that happens in the movie that So we talked about that, and then next week we're talking about Scream 2022. We're talking about Fresh, the new release that just came out with Sebastian Stan, and then Behind the Mask is our niche pick.
Oh, that's a nice underrated cult favorite. Yeah, Behind the Mask is big. It's a big one, and it's a big cult favorite. Yeah, a lot of people champion that movie. It's a fun movie.
We're going to be talking about that Monday, and then obviously on this channel we have There Will Be Trivia, both exhibitions and open style 3-on-3 format bar trivia, but it's specifically movie trivia, and then the exhibition singles and teams. And then actually this Saturday we're going to be doing Sweet 16, where we're going to all come up with our votes for our nominations for what we want to have on the bracket for best picture winners, and then we will essentially pick our battles for that to see what is our favorite.
Raiders nominated but didn't win.
Which I might, depending on the matchup, probably would have voted against it, ironically, even though it was my number 2 on this list.
Well, no, you're doing strictly winners, so it wouldn't even be eligible. But yeah,
but if it was, that would be I'm like, I technically was high up on this list, but first out. So if you're not already, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the channel, just because we do a lot of fun stuff over here. Mm-hmm. And if you're not already, go ahead and join the Facebook group, because whenever I post post of like, hey, we're doing a There Will Be Trivia, signups, or even like the Sweet 16 stuff.
Hit that bell so you know when we go live and you can watch along.
Because we try and be pretty consistent with our times with this, around the 7 EST, but sometimes change. Like tonight, I'm about to go play a cornhole in literally about 5 minutes from now. So
although I will say next week I'm going to be on the road, so we may still do it, but it might be a late night one if you're down, like a little night owl version of Let's Rank stuff. But you're kind of a night owl anyways. You do trivia like 11, 12 at night anyway, so we might be doing that. So we might be ranking PTA. I might be ranking it from a hotel room. We'll see. We'll see.
And then next week you'll see me with a brand new tattoo, because I'm getting a tattoo tomorrow.
Hey, so you're getting Indiana Jones fedora tattoo, right? Or I Hate Snakes.
That's actually going to be on my heart. No, I'm actually getting the heart that was ripped out in Template.
Yeah, right. You're getting the thing. Yeah. Om Nom Shivaya, Om Nom Shivaya, Om Nom Shivaya.
My name is Eric Gopler, so that is not special. This is where we bring stuff. Bye.